unbelievable. Nobody wants them. We were in the middle of a war. We needed to defeat Hitler. It's rotten to the core society that needs to be denazified. Today we're going to talk about what everyone's talking about, which is the hostage deal with Hamas. Israel, as you know, experienced one of the darkest days in its history. Actually, the darkest day in Israel's history. Not the darkest day in the Jewish people's history, but the state of Israel experienced the darkest day of its history on October 7th. I don't need to tell you what Hamas did on that day, but let's just say the things that they did are things that the human soul, the human being, should not have to know anything of, watch, or anything like that. I mean, I've seen the atrocities in my feed, and I do my best to kind of avoid them. But it is important to know what we're dealing with here. And so, in addition to the atrocities, the murders, the rapes, they also abducted hundreds of Israelis, soldiers, innocent people, grandparents, babies, literal babies. This is what we're dealing with. And after a year and a half of fighting and Hamas realizing they got no chance of survival, and combined with the pressure of knowing that Trump is about to enter office, they came begging for a deal. And so Israel signed that deal because that's what Israel does. We'll get to that in a second. So he signed the deal. The deal is objectively terrible for Israel. Terrible. So why did Israel sign it? Well, I'm going to put aside the conspiracy theories of Trump either incentivizing Netanyahu or threatening Netanyahu. I'm sure there is something to that, and I'm sure there's more that meets the eye with this deal, but I'm putting that aside because I don't have any information on that. So why did Israel agree to release 1,000 terrorists for 33 hostages? It's insane, like I said. Here's the thing, though. Judaism views the freeing of prisoners, of our prisoners, as one of the most important and sacred and holy missions in the entire Jewish theology. In fact, we say a blessing every morning, thanking God for freeing our prisoners. It is a value of utmost importance in Judaism, and that means that we have to pay a steep price sometimes to bring our people back. Now, the other side of this debate, of course, is, but you're bringing back 33 people, letting out 1,000 people, those 1,000 people, are they going to go and murder more than 33 people? It's a valid point. In fact, I will strengthen that argument and say that the last time we did this, the Shalit deal, we did 1,000 terrorists for one person, Gilad Shalit. One of those 1,000 terrorists was none other than Sinwar, who literally orchestrated October 7th. So the question is, if Israel knew at the time that one of those 1,000 prisoners that we're letting out will orchestrate the darkest day in Israel's history, would we still have released 1,000 terrorists? No one knows, right? But the question is with this deal, should Israel do this, should Israel not do this? And of course, Israel is doing it, so this is a hypothetical discussion. But the truth is, as I always say, life is nuanced. Life is not black and white. Social media is black and white. As you know, on social media, you're either the hero or the villain, right? Trump is either terrible or he's amazing. Biden is either terrible or amazing. Netanyahu is either terrible or amazing. Real life is not black and white. Real life is gray. So this deal is both terrible and beautiful at the same time. And I'm not even talking about my personal involvement in the deal. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there's no denying that seeing those innocent hostages, so far it's been women, young ladies, reunited with their families is beyond emotional, inspiring, and just a beautiful, beautiful thing. We've all watched it. We all saw those scenes in Gaza where the savages of Gaza are surrounding these poor girls at their very last minute and torturing them to the very last second. And they came home and they were embraced by their families. And I believe I can say on behalf of this entire country, we were all in tears. So that's beautiful. And that's something that, as I said, Judaism views at the utmost importance, bringing back our prisoners. So was this a good deal or a bad deal? The answer is it was both. It was both terrible and beautiful at the same time. I think Israel had to do this because there was no other option on the table, and we wanted to bring back our people. Obviously, we want to be trading, one for one, or even bring back our prisoners, our hostages, for free without us releasing any prisoners. But the real life situation is this is the only option we had on the table at that time, and so we took it. Now the question is, what happens next? And I think Israel, hopefully, I hope and pray that Israel has learned its lessons from October 7th, and we will no longer be complacent. We will no longer convince ourselves that Hamas is a peaceful organization. We saw what they did on October 7th. We kind of knew it before. I mean, when we evacuated and we disengaged from Gaza in 2005, we literally dug up our dead. Like, people have to understand this. Not only do we, quote-unquote, ethnically cleanse Gaza from Jews, aka there was no Jews, not one Jew, in Gaza on October 6th, but we actually dug up our dead, knowing full well what would happen to those dead bodies if we left them in Gaza. And sure enough, we were right. I mean, on October 7th, I can't even say the words of what these animals did to dead bodies. Google it if you want. Beware though. And so we have to do whatever we have to do to bring these hostages back, and it includes a very, very steep price. And now I'm going to throw a little wrench in there and say that one of the 1,000 prisoners being released from Israeli prisons is none other than my brother, Ari Fuld's murderer, terrorist. My older brother, who was murdered by a terrorist in 2018, his terrorist is now getting out. You have to understand, this kid, and I call him a kid because that's what he was 16 years old, woke up one morning in 2018 and decided today's a good day to murder a Jew. And my brother was shopping for his family Sunday morning, like any Sunday morning, and this kid came from behind and murdered Ari. He stabbed him in the main artery in his neck. By the way, Ari heroically, and I would say even miraculously, managed to chase him down, jump over a wall, and shoot the terrorist when he was an inch away from his next victim, a woman named Hillel, who Ari saved in his last breath. So he literally shot this terrorist, didn't kill him, but he shot this terrorist and saved Hillel's life, and then Ari collapsed and died. So this kid, has been in jail since 2018, so he's now 21 years old, and he's been getting a salary. I'm going to repeat that. He's been getting a monthly salary, or his family has been getting a monthly salary, not from Hamas, not from Islamic Jihad, from the Palestinian Authority, aka the people that the world would have you believe are moderates, are innocent, right? The Palestinian Authority, Abbas, he's the moderate one. He wears a suit and a tie. Well, they've been paying the murderer of my brother a salary every single month for the past 5 years, the past 6 years. And that's important that people know that. I was packing up my car. I had been in a hotel in Jerusalem for Shabbat, and I got a phone call from my dad letting me know that he's on the list. This savage murderer who killed my brother is on the list to be released. Now, that's obviously on a personal level very painful, tragic. I don't think that should, nor do I think it does, affect or impact my opinion on the deal. My opinion on the deal stays that it's a terrible and a beautiful deal at the same time. I get both arguments, for and against. I understand. All I'll say is that I am extremely grateful that I don't have to be in Netanyahu's shoes to make such a terrible, terrible decision. I also wouldn't want to be the person who has to look the mothers of these hostages in the eyes and say, I'm sorry, but the price they're asking to bring your daughter back when she's being raped in the dungeons of hell of Gaza, that price is just too high. Sorry. Yeah, I can't even imagine having to tell the mothers that. So I guess we have to implement the lessons we've learned from October 7th. We have to make sure that those 1,000 monsters do not return to terror. Some of them, by the way, are being deported outside of Israel. Some are in Gaza, some are in Judea and Samaria, and some of them are being deported to Turkey and to Qatar and other places. Now there's a lot of talk of deporting millions of Palestinians. Trump has been talking about bringing them, sending them outside of Israel. We'll see where that goes, but just open parentheses here and say that over the years there's been many politicians who became taboo when they suggested relocating the Palestinians outside of Gaza. It's like, that's such an extremist view, but when the president of the United States of America suggests it, all of a sudden it's a legitimate suggestion. Close parentheses. But in any case, again, on a personal level, it's terribly tragic to see this kid walk freely after what he did. But on the other hand, we have to bring these hostages back for no other reason than, our citizens and our soldiers have to know that if God forbid something like this happens, we will do everything we can to bring them back. And if we don't, then think about what that will do to the morale of, again, the citizens of the state of Israel as well as the soldiers. We can't have them believe that we wouldn't do anything we can to bring them back. So again, the terrible, terrible aspect of the deal is that we're letting out these monsters, and there's no sugarcoating that, there's no belittling that. It is terrible. The beautiful side of this deal is that these families get to be reunited with their loved ones who have been literally in the dungeons of hell for, a year and a half, which is, a time period that I can't even fathom. Just imagine being alone these people didn't see sunlight for a year and a half. And I don't even want to think about what they did to them. There's terrible, terrible rumors about what some of the female hostages went through. I don't even want to go there. But it is what it is. The deal, is going through. We've already brought back 7 hostages alive, which to me, honestly, blew my mind because, again, we're dealing with savage terrorists. I'm shocked. I have to be honest. I am shocked that they had the self-control to leave these hostages alive. Obviously, I'm thankful and grateful that they did, but it's shocking to me that they did. And again, there are rumors about the Bibas family, the babies, literal infants. Who abducts an infant? This is crazy stuff. There are rumors. I hope they're not true that they're no longer with us, but time will tell. I just want to see our hostages back. They have let Israel know that many of the 33 that they're releasing in this phase of the deal are actually dead. But still, Why are we releasing people for dead bodies? Because we need to bury our people with dignity. We can't just let dead bodies, stay in Gaza. So dead bodies, alive hostages, we're doing whatever we can to bring them back. And I'm both for it and against it. That's the reality. It's a complicated, not black and white situation. And like many things in life, it requires nuance. Those are my thoughts. So the big question I think that's on everyone's mind is what happens the day after, right? Who will rule Gaza? What will happen in Israel? A big discussion about the day after. I want to push back on the premise. Did anybody talk about the day after in World War II? Did anybody care about the world? This is what we were in the middle of a war. We needed to defeat Hitler. And so we said we will deal with the day after on the day after. But somehow when it's a Jewish war, when Israel's fighting for its existence and survival, all of a sudden everyone's so concerned the day after. I'm not really concerned the day after, if I'm being totally honest. The day after, there will be no Hamas. We will have our hostages back, and we will have achieved total victory over our enemies, and we will have removed every single threat from our borders. So that's what I think about the day after. But it's a valid question. Who will rule Gaza? What will be with Israel? So first of all, I think it's important to mention, because this is an important topic, that in Israel we will have to figure out a way to provide, mental health support at scale. I'm not sure the world has ever seen trauma or PTSD at this scale. I mean, the entire country's in PTSD. I was watching a movie, and in the movie, it wasn't even a siren. It was just music that sounded a little bit like a siren. And I jumped up. I was like, oh my God. And my wife's like, no, it's part of the movie. This is the deal in Israel right now. We're all in PTSD. So first of all, the day after, we have to deal with that. I don't know how we're going to deal with that, because we can't send the whole country to therapy. I'll just kind of throw in, a little kind of top secret information, but can't share too much about this. But I do know that there's a lot of discussion about alternative therapies or alternative treatments, such as psychedelics. Not going to go there right now, but just throwing that out there. We're going to have to think out of the box here on how to cure this country from the PTSD caused by Hamas. So that's first of all, as far as the day after. But as far as Gaza, I don't think, obviously, Hamas can't rule Gaza anymore, but I don't even think the Palestinian Authority can rule Gaza. And I think we need to stop pretending that there's a fundamental difference between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. They're equally, extreme. They're equally hungry for Jewish blood. One plays the role a little better, but they're equally, savage. And so let's not pretend that that's not the case. So I don't think the Palestinian Authority should rule Gaza either. Who should? I think there's a lot of discussion about an international force of some kind, but we saw what happened in Lebanon. We did that. It wasn't very effective. So the answer is I don't know, but I think we need to figure out a creative solution here. And again, if Trump, follows through on what he's been saying with deporting millions of Palestinians outside of Gaza to live a better life in Egypt or anywhere else around the world, that would be a great solution to rebuild Gaza without the incitement and the terror and the horrible education they give their kids and the indoctrination. That would be incredible. Time will tell, but one thing's for sure, we cannot let Hamas or the Palestinian Authority rule Gaza anymore. Those days are over. What role the UN should play in this entire kind of end of the war, Gaza, what role should the UN play? And the answer is, the UN is about the most morally bankrupt organization globally. And there's a pretty competitive fight over there. There's a lot of them. But, the ICC, for example. But UNRWA, which is, let's not even get into it. Before we even get into what UNRWA is, you understand that the UN has one organization in the entire world, one organization to take care of refugees. Which refugees? Not Sudan, not the Palestinians. Even if UNRWA wasn't a terror-supporting, organization, why is it that the Palestinians have a specific organization just for them? It just shows the absurdity and the hypocrisy of the UN. But UNRWA has been well documented. There's no question that they not only support terror, but they took an active role in October 7th. So there is no place for UNRWA anymore in the Middle East. In fact, I would say that the UN had one role, one goal in this world, and one reason or justification for its existence, and that's the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Since then, all they've done has been morally bankrupt. And so I don't think the UN or UNRWA or any other organization has any role, has any place in the Middle East after what they did on October 7th. So as far as I'm concerned, the UN can shut its doors, but do whatever you want, guys. You're not stepping foot in my neighborhood anymore. So what should Trump do, right? If we don't want UNRWA there, we don't want the UN there, we don't want Hamas there, we don't want the Palestinian Authority, what should Trump do? And again, he's mentioned several times about deporting Palestinians, and that would be the ideal situation for everyone. But then, the question arises, well, they don't want the Palestinians. You can't force them. The answer is yes, you can. Yes, you can. Because the Palestinians came from Egypt and Jordan. And it's time we opened our eyes to history and stopped pretending and faking and fabricating historical events that never took place. There was never a Palestinian state that was an Arab state. It was called Jordan. And so it's time we said to Jordan and said to Egypt, we, as in the United States of America, are sending you billions of dollars every year. Billions. You don't want to take them. You don't want to take in the Palestinians, your own people? No problem. We're shutting, the faucet. We're no longer sending you funds. They'll take them in pretty quickly. They need American money. And so from my perspective, even if Egypt and Jordan and other countries, by the way, refuse to take in the Palestinians, that's not my problem. And Trump needs to force them to do that. But on a deeper level, it's just mind-boggling to me. Like, why is the entire world coming to Israel and claiming that we, committed genocide and we are starving Gaza? Like, do people not know how to open a map? There's an Egyptian border with Gaza. Why is no one complaining about the fact that Egypt built this massive, massive wall between Gaza and Egypt, and they've not let any Palestinians in? Like, it's their Muslim brothers. Like, why is no one saying a word about this? It's mind-boggling. I mean, it joins a long, long, long list of things that just make no sense about this war. But the reality is, there is no place for the indoctrination of children that's going on today in Gaza and has been going on for a very long time. It's time we came up with an out-of-the-box solution, be a little creative, be a little aggressive even. Trump needs to make some serious fundamental changes in the Middle East because we've tried this, this cycle of let's make peace, let's give them land, the disengagement. What Israel has done for peace, and we've offered them 98% of what they want. 98%. Guess what they said? No, right? I don't remember who said it, but someone said the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, right? They've had the chance for a state countless times. By the way, they had a chance for a state before Israel had a state. 1947, the partition plan. The Arab state alongside the Jewish state. Israel said, no problem. Guess what they said? No go. Guess what they did? They attacked. Guess what happened next? They lost. And there you have it, the entire history of the Middle East. They say no to peace, they attack Israel, Israel wins, and then they start complaining and saying genocide. So Trump needs to, rule this area, not boots on the ground, but he needs to, come with a sledgehammer and come up with an aggressive, effective solution, because everything we've tried till now simply doesn't work. So very much depending on Trump here to follow on his promises, and if he can deport Palestinians to a more peaceful environment, I think it would be win-win for everyone. And for the world, by the way, stability, global stability. It's important we understand that there is an actual ideal, like an actual value in the Quran to lie. Like, I'm not kidding, you guys can look this up. I mean, there's an actual value to lie to the West in order to achieve the goal of radical Islam taking over the world. This is a real thing. And so some do it better than others, right? ISIS isn't hiding what they want. Hamas isn't hiding what they want. Islamic Jihad's not hiding what they don't play the game. They say what they want. They want dead Jews. The Palestinian Authority, they wear a tie. We're moderates, right? Qatar is a master at this. They're playing the moderate moderators. We're the one bringing back the hostages. We want peace in the region. Qatar is the second biggest supporter of global terror right after Iran. And this is a fact. This is not a debatable fact. You can do as much research as you want. Qatar funds terror. Qatar, by the way, is a major backer of all the insanity on US campuses. We see these quote-unquote woke individuals literally marching around supporting murder and genocide, because that's what From the River to the Sea is, and that's what globalized the Intifada is. Let's just say it as it is. That's what that means. Genocide, the annihilation of the Jewish people. Again, you don't believe me? Google it. I'm not going to convince you. From the River to the Sea means the entire state of Israel. What do these people intend on doing with the Israelis, right? Throwing them in the sea, basically, right? So, when these people march on US campuses openly supporting terror, who's funding that thing? Did you ever think about that? Where are all their tents from? Where are all their flags from? How are they so well organized? By the way, this didn't start, 6 months after October 7th. This started on October 7th. They were ready. How are they ready? Qatar funds this entire thing. Google it if you don't believe me. And so Qatar is the most dangerous because, again, they're friends and allies of the West, right? America's, they're doing God's work, I believe, is what America said, which is terribly dangerous because, before you solve a problem, you need to acknowledge the problem, and no one acknowledges Qatar's role in the support of terror on a global stage, and it's a massive role that they play, and we need to start recognizing and stop kidding ourselves that Qatar is like this, peace-loving nation. They are a terror-loving nation, and they send billions of dollars to support terror globally. We need to stop that as soon as possible. So the headquarters of Hamas is in Qatar, right? So why are they taking in Palestinians? The answer is the same reason no one else is taking in Palestinians. The Palestinians, let me just give a little disclaimer. I'm not saying there are all innocent people in Gaza. There are innocent people in Gaza, but let's just look at reality. Reality is anywhere between 70 to 90% of Gaza supports October 7th. This is a society that is fundamentally rotten to the core. Nobody wants that in their country. You see what's happening with Middle Eastern migrants around the West and what's going on there. Mass rape, and support of terror and terrorist attacks and just anti-Semitism. I mean, radical Islam is a cancer, and whatever society it infiltrates, it ruins. And so of course the world doesn't want Palestinians. The Palestinians are a heavily indoctrinated society with people of all ages. Kids, again, a kid killed my brother. With kids, literally walking around with like machine guns and Hamas headbands. Kids. So this is a society that I do not believe can be fixed. I think it needs to be, as we did in World War II, denazified from the ground up. And why would any country want that in their society? Why would any country want murderers, savages, rapists, and let's just say it as it is, pedophiles? And again, go look at what they did on October 7th. Why would any society want that, including Qatar? So it's not surprising to me that no one wants the Palestinians. What's surprising is that even though the Muslim world, the Palestinians brothers, don't want them, somehow the world still comes to Israel and says, take them in, right? Stop occupying them. Well, why isn't Egypt taking them in? Why isn't Qatar taking them in? Why isn't any Muslim country? What are they, 50 Muslim countries in the world? One Jewish country. It's, again, unbelievable. How many Muslim countries are there in the world? How many Christian countries in the world? One Jewish state is just too much. So, why is anyone taking them in? Because nobody wants them. Because they're rotten to the core society that needs to be denazified from the ground up. And the sooner we do that, we will see a chance at peace in the Middle East. There is no making peace with the Palestinians as they are right now, because again, their declared goal, this isn't me saying it, it's them saying it, is to murder as many Jews as possible and then continue to all infidels and just take over the West. This is what they want to do. No country will want them, as they stand right now. Before that society is denazified, there is no discussion about peace in the Middle East. And the sooner we do that and denazify, again, like in World War II, the sooner we will see actual peace. And I don't mean, a short-lasting peace like we had, quote-unquote, with Hamas that wasn't attacking Israel on October 6th. I mean a real peace where, I think it was Golda Meir who said, when they love their children more than they hate us, that's when there'll be peace. And truthfully, I would say 99% of the state of Israel yearns and longs for that day. When it will happen, if it will happen in my lifetime, if I'm being totally honest, highly unlikely. But eventually it's going to happen. For now, we have to wait to see what Trump does, and I do hope that, he does send Palestinians to some Muslim countries where they can, grow the next generation without the heavy indoctrination that we're seeing in Gaza today. Thanks for watching this. This is only the second episode, but we're gonna have a good time with this, and we'll see you next week.